Dimir Flash started off in Ikoria as a very popular and tested deck, and there was a lot of very interesting cards that made people want to give it a try. You had things like Dirgebat with the mutate mechanic to blow up your opponent's creature while still playing creatures and having an aggro build yourself. You had Voracious Great Shark, essentially a more expensive, 1 mana more expensive version of Frilled Mystic that could come down, counter a Witch's Oven or a creature, and then swing in for massive damage with its 5/4 body. You had Slitherwisp that could draw you more cards and ping your opponents, and Cunning Nightbonders that made everything uncounterable. The deck was poised to be a great deck, and it looked like Magic had printed a ton of great cards that worked well together to make this deck something special. But then Bant Ramp came along, Urian came along, Luris came along. A lot of things just outclassed it. So while on paper the deck looked incredible, in actual gameplay it got outclassed pretty quickly by a lot of the other decks. And so a lot of people gave up on Dimir Flash. But I think they were looking at Dimir Flash all wrong. If you build Dimir Flash in such a way that you have a lot of small spells, cheaper spells, rather than trying to mutate a Dirgebat for 6 mana, or counter a spell for 5 mana, if you instead play the cards that cost 1, 2, or 3 mana, you will have a lot more success, in my opinion. And so that's what this deck is doing. We're going to play a lot of cheap costed spells and see how well Dimir Flash can do. And as it turns out, it can do very, very well. Now, I'm not saying after rotation that Dirgebats and Voracious Great Sharks won't be part of the deck and won't be a fun, important part of the deck. But for right now, Dimir Flash has some legs, and it can do some incredible things and beat some top tier decks if people give it a chance and try to change the way that they think of the deck. So stay tuned to the deck tech here. We're going to go over my choices, win conditions, what to expect, matchups, and some gameplay. So stay tuned and let me get you accustomed to and introduced to the new Dimir Flash. We're going to start by going over the deck list here, and I can tell you I tried about every build that you can think of Dimir Flash, and statistically I'm confident in saying this is the best version. I'll give you some alternatives where appropriate, and I'll let you know what we're doing post-rotation. But to be honest, we're not losing a whole lot of cards when we have rotation on September 24th. We're losing about 1 card, and we have a solid replacement for it. So, without further ado, I present to you the deck, the best version of Dimir Flash after several months of testing. At 1 mana, 1 blue mana, we have 4 of Spectral Sailor. It is a 1/1 spirit with flying and flash. You can pay 3 of anything and 1 blue to draw a card. And note, you don't have to tap it. You can draw as many cards as you can pay for and still attack and block with it and pay after you tap it. So Spectral Sailor has a lot of benefits to it and is our ideal 1-drop. It has evasion, it has flash, and it has card draw, which I've come to find are some of the most important things for Dimir Flash to have. Now, it is going to rotate. It is the sole card that is going to rotate out of this build of the deck, but we have a replacement already lined up in Thieves Guild Enforcer. Now, it's 1 black, and you get a 1/1 human rogue that has flash, obviously. A rogue enters the battlefield, you mill your opponent for 2 cards. Then, if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you get to basically add +2/+1, so it becomes a 3/2 with Death Touch to Thieves Guild Enforcer. A 3/2 Death Toucher is pretty good and can handle just about anything in the format. Milling your opponent I've heard arguments it's not the best idea, and it really isn't. They say that you're helping your opponent to get their arrows out quicker, and you are, but at the same time, you have to have faith that your game plan is better than your opponent's. So we can mill them into Uro quicker, but we can also deal with Uro better. So I think it's a pretty good one-drop replacement. I think it'll be better after rotation. So we're going to stick with Spectral Sailor for as long as we can, and go with Thieves Guild Enforcer after rotation. Next we have Faerie Vandal. We're playing 3 of him, and he is a 1 of anything, 1 blue, flash flying fairy rogue on a 1/2 body. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Faerie Vandal. And that's for each turn, your opponent's turn and your own turn. Admittedly, it's easier to get on your turn, but with this deck, you can usually get one on your opponent's turn too, once you get going and you're set up and on your way towards winning. Faerie Vandal, note, is a rogue, so when we start playing Thieves Guild Enforcer, it has synergy there. But it's also evasive with its flying, and is a great card draw engine in itself when combined with Sea-Dasher Octopus, who we'll go over here shortly. We also play in our control package a 3 of Lofty Denial for 1 of anything in a blue. It's an instant common counter spell where we can counter any spell unless our opponent pays 1. However, if we have a flying creature out, we counter that spell unless our opponent, pays 4. So this is our answer to Teferi. Teferi blows us out. We need something in the main deck to deal with Teferi because we know we're going to see him. And this is the perfect answer that we have right now. Potentially, we'll replace this with Drowned in the Loch when we switch over to our Thieves Guild Enforcer. The reason being is right now with Spectral Sailor, we can sometimes counter a spell out of our opponent's reach that we don't want them to have. So right now with Spectral Sailor, we can play Lofty Denial, and unless our opponent can pay 4 on turn 2 or 3, we counter a spell. Whereas without the Spectral Sailor, or that early game flyer, they can pay 1 and get out of it, which isn't a great game plan. Your opponent can usually pay 1, especially in the late game. Sometimes they can even pay 4. Where Drown in the Loch is a hard counter as long as they have enough cards in their graveyard, which would be more in line with the Thieves Guild Enforcer game plan. So that's a possibility to play with post-rotation. We can even play with it now. But for the best build at the moment, go with Lofty Denial. 3 of, because later in the game, it's not as good. But early game, it's a fantastic answer to Teferi, even if we're on the draw. And by the time our opponent's playing him, we only have 2 mana up. That's all we need. Omen of the Sea is 1 of anything, a blue for an enchantment. It says flash, when Omen of the Sea enters the battlefield, scry 2, then draw a card. We can pay 2 of anything in a blue to then sacrifice it and scry 2 again. This is another great draw engine. It helps us get through our deck, smooth out our draws, get to lands, get to our Slitherwisp, get to more card draw, and find the things that we need to beat our opponent at the given time. I originally started playing one of the other Omens, Omen of the Dead, since I was trying to go with a build with fewer counter spells, but I feel like going with more counters and an Omen of the Sea is the best way to build the deck right now. We have a 3 of Threnody Singer, 1 of anything, a blue for a creature siren on a 1/3 body. It says flash flying. When Threnody Singer enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-0 until end of turn, where X is your devotion to blue. This can create many blowouts for your opponent. They might think that they're winning, they might put an Ember Cleave on a creature and think that they're really going to smash you, and then you give it minus sometimes 8-9 depending on how well you're doing, and just prevent all the damage entirely and even kill your opponent's creature with your own creatures and blocking. Or you can even attack in, get your opponent in a situation where he thinks he can block and trade or block and kill your creature, and instead make it a one-sided deal with a Threnody Singer. The evasion's also good. It's great for Sea-Dasher. Again, another great target for Sea-Dasher to mutate onto. So it basically does everything that we want. We have Blacklance Paragon. For 1 of anything and a swamp, you get a human knight with flash. When Blacklance Paragon enters the battlefield, target knight gains death touch and lifelink until the end of turn. It's on a 3/1 body, so a lot of attack power and not much defense. This is sort of our removal for the deck. So we're not playing Heartless Axe or Eliminates or anything like that. Instead, we're playing a Death Touch lifelink creature that we can flash out and get rid of our opponent's big threats that they were planning on ending the game with. Blacklance has gotten me out of several losing situations. It's gotten me the lifelink to go another turn and win the game. It's gotten rid of our opponent's key creature to again move on to win the game. It's just a fantastic card all around, and it's our form of removal in the deck. We play a 4 of Cunning Nightbonder for Dimir hybrid mana that's blue or black, so any combination of blue and black as long as you have 2 of them. You get a human rogue on a 2/2 body. It says flash. Spells you control with flash cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. This card is huge for the deck. We play all 4 all day. The cost reduction makes a Slitherwisp win very, very realistic. It makes the opponents that play counter spells, it makes a lot of their cards useless. It's just a fantastic card for this deck, and it's one that we want to see 1 of every single game. Up next, I play 2 copies of Brazen Bower, 1 of anything, and a blue. You get a Fairy Rogue with Flash Flying, and it can only block creatures with flying on a 3/1 body. But you can also cast the Adventure side at instant speed, Petty Theft, 1 of anything and a blue, to return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So again, another way to create blowouts, to cause tempo loss for your opponent, and to get through a lot of damage. 3 damage in the air is not easy for each opponent to deal with. So it's a great creature. It does everything we want. You could fit in probably 3 or 4 of them if you really want to. I'm not sure what you take out. Maybe a copy of Slitherwisp. But for me, 2 seems to be just right in most games. Our other counter spell that we play in the deck is Neutralize. 1 of anything and a blue for an instant counter target spell. Simple. But it also has cycling too. So if we are trying to ping our opponent for 1 last damage, we can cycle Neutralize and try to draw into another flash spell, so our Slitherwisp can ping our opponent. We can cycle it and try to find another land. There's a lot of things that we can do with Neutralize, but it's also just a hard counter. An opponent can't get around it unless they have a counter of their own to get rid of the Neutralize. So we needed a hard counter in the deck, and Neutralize is by far the best option that we have. We also play 4 copies of Sea-Dasher Octopus. For 1 of anything and an island, you get a octopus creature on a 2/2 body that says flash. Mutate for 1 of anything and a blue. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this is huge for our card draw plan. We want to be drawing tons of cards, and this can let us draw a card each turn as long as we're getting in for combat damage. But we have enough flyers that we can usually make that happen with this deck. Sea-Dasher Octopus is the only survivor of all the mutate creatures that I was playing with, and a lot of other people were. I know a lot of people went Sea-Dasher, Pouncing Shore Shark, and Dirge Bat for kind of a small mutate package in their flash deck. But I don't think those other 2 cards are necessary. However, Sea-Dasher Octopus is necessary. It's a great card, and it's one of the few 4-ofs that we have in the deck. This next card is probably one of our key components, one of the cards that I really wanted to build around and make successful, and I feel like I have done that as well as we can in this current meta. It's Slitherwisp. For an island and 2 swamps, you get an Elemental Nightmare on a 3/2 body that says flash. Whenever you cast another spell that has flash, you draw a card and each opponent loses 1 life. This card is excellent if you can get it to stick. It's a high removal priority target for your opponents, so if they have a shock or a stomp in hand, they usually target it at Slitherwisp. So you might want to consider holding off until you have a counter spell or some way of protecting it. But if your opponent isn't playing those kind of removal spells, play it early and try to get maximum benefit off of it. It's easy to get 1 or 2 down and to have it barrel out of control, just drawing you more flash cards that you in turn play to ping your opponent, to draw more flash cards that you in turn play to ping your opponent and draw more flash cards, and it can become a never-ending winning cycle for as long as you have the mana for it. The only other card that we're playing, and the only card that is over 3 mana, is Lochmere Serpent. I have it as a 1-of. I've experimented with 2-ofs, but I think 1-of is just about perfect. We do keep another in the sideboard if we need it. But Lochmere Serpent, for 4 of anything, an island and a swamp, you get a serpent creature on a 7/7 body. It says Flash. You can pay 1 blue, sacrifice an island, and Lochmere Serpent can't be blocked this turn. You could play a black, sacrifice a swamp, and gain 1 life and draw a card. And then you can play blue-black and exile 5 target cards from an opponent's graveyard and return Lochmere Serpent from your graveyard to your hand. You can only do this when you can play a sorcery. So Lochmere Serpent is huge in this deck. It's a great closer, but you don't always want to see it, especially if you're already going for a Slitherwisp win and you draw a Lochmere. It's a pretty big feel bad when you're trying to draw 1 mana flash spells. But it is such a good card and such a hard to deal with threat that I think we got to play 1-of in the deck at least. And again, I keep another in the sideboard. If I'm playing a matchup where I think Lochmere is going to be a great finisher, I will put it in and maybe take out one of the Slitherwisps or something along those lines. So that's the deck minus the land base for the moment. But I'd like to point out again, card draw is huge. The Spectral Sailors draw cards. Omen of the Sea draws cards. The Sea-Dasher Octopus draws card. The Slitherwisp, the Lochmere Serpent. We want to draw a lot of cards to keep going, keep playing more things, and keep our opponent on their toes. We want to draw into our few counter spells. If you notice, there's only 6 in the deck, but with the amount of card draw we get, that's actually perfect for us. We can usually draw into one when we need it and use it. Moving on to the mana base here, we are playing Dimir, so we're obviously going to play Watery Graves. I have it in here as a 4-of. Just play as many as you have available to you. At this point, you should be trying to get any shock lands with your wild cards or in paper so that you can make a halfway decent mana base for what you're playing. You want to play all 4 Watery Graves because we want to have both blue and black. Slitherwisp is a hard card to cast because it's black, black, blue, and we're primarily a blue deck. So we want the 4 of Watery Grave to try to get to that double black so we can play our Slitherwisp and win in that regard. We also play 2 of Temple of Deceit. I don't like to play any more. I really don't want to draw too many tap lands, especially when I'm trying to go off and I need 1 more mana or 1 more untapped land. The scrying is nice, but we also get scrying from Omen of the Sea. So I think 2 of is pretty good in this scenario. Maybe you could work in a 3rd if you really want to, but 2 has worked out pretty good for me. We also play 2 Fable Passage. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. You can sacrifice it, search for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, unless you control 4 or more lands. So it's Evolving Wilds that's a little bit better. It's not worth the paper price if you ask me. Most of the time I'll probably end up playing it as my first land of the turn if it's in my opening hand, just so I don't have to deal with it coming in tapped later if I don't make it to 4 lands. but there's enough upside to it that in some scenarios it's just in a better Evolving Wilds and sort of becomes one of your classic dual lands or dual fetch lands. So 2 of is pretty good. I don't really want to see it again in my opening hand too often, but drawing into it's pretty good so you can get what you need at the time. The only other non-basic I've been playing is 1 of Castle Vantress. Again, it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. You can tap it for blue, or pay 2 of anything and an island to tap it and scry for 2. The scry 2 is pretty big if we're playing a game that's gone long and we need to draw into something. We can look at the top 2 cards and smooth out our draws a little bit. After that, we just have our 8 islands and 6 swamps. For the sideboard, I play some cards that I had mainboarded for a while, and I know well enough that we want to have them in certain matchups, but not every matchup. So most of these cards in the sideboard are ones that I have experimented with extensively, and I've come to realize are really, really good in certain matchups. But again, they're dead in other matchups, so sideboard is where they belong. We'll start with Mystic Subdual. It's 3 of in our sideboard. It's 1 of anything and a blue for an enchantment aura, flash. Enchant creature, gets -2, -0, and loses all abilities. It also says mutating won't give the creature new abilities, but it can gain abilities in other ways. This is huge, again, for shutting down mutate decks, for messing with mono red. Basically, any deck that wants a utility creature, a Priest of the Forgotten Gods, something where they're depending on the ability, this shuts it down completely. So I like it, again, in Rakdos matchups. I like it in mono-red matchups. I like it in a lot of scenarios. But it's a sideboard card because it is dead against Bant Ramp mostly and other decks along those lines that aren't really creature heavy. I also have 2 of Starlit Mantle. It's 1 of anything in a blue for an enchantment aura, flash. Enchant creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, enchanted creature gains hexproof, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1. So again, games where you're playing mono red or a black deck with targeted removal, Starlit Mantle can come in and save your key creature at a key moment. But sometimes it's just a dead card. It just gives you +1/+1 to a creature. So that's why it's relegated to the sideboard. We also have 3 of Mystical Dispute for 2 of anything in a blue. It's an instant counter spell. It costs 2 less to cast if it targets a blue spell, and you get to counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Really, we bring this in for the Teferi matchup, or any matchup where our opponent's trying to land an early game threat that we can't answer later in the game. So it comes in mostly for Teferi, but there might be other games where you want to go a little bit more on the counter spell side. We also play 2 of Cry of the Canarium for 1 of anything and 2 swamps. You get a sorcery speed board wipe. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Exile all creature cards and all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. If a creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So this again mostly comes in against mono red or the blue-white Flyers deck. Anything where they play a lot of real small creatures that they eventually want to pump up or overwhelm you with, Cry the Canarium can take care of those decks pretty nicely. So it's a 2 of in the sideboard all day. We also have 2 of Liliana Standard Bearer. It's 2 of anything in a swamp for a zombie knight. It has a 3/1 body and it says flash. When Liliana Standard Bearer enters the battlefield, draw X cards, or X the number of creatures that died under your control this turn. So this comes in against board wipe heavy decks. Things, usually the Urion deck or maybe even Reclamation. Some control decks that are playing some amount of board wipes, this can be great against. They wipe your board, they get rid of all your creatures, and you get to draw cards for each creature that got wiped this way. So they might think that they've blown you out. Maybe you had 1 card in hand and they just wiped your board, and you play this and all of a sudden you get to draw 3, 4, maybe even 5 cards. and maybe even play some out at flash speed and continue the onslaught. It's a great card in those situations. Bring it in against board wipe heavy decks and just watch how quickly you can rebuild with this card. Next we have Ashiok Dream Render for 1 of anything and 2 Dimir mana, so that's blue, black, in any combination. You get a Planeswalker Ashiok with 5 starting loyalty. It has a static ability that spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause them to search their library. And you can -1 to make target player mill 4 cards and exile their graveyard. This is great against a deck that leans heavily on Uros or the escape mechanic, or against the cycling deck where they just cycle a ton of cards and try to flare you out. This comes in those matchups and it does an excellent job. And also don't forget that they can't search their library, so any card they have, even a Fable Passage, gets blanked out and becomes a loss. And you'll be surprised how many times people forget that Ashiok has that ability. They crack their passage and they just lose their land altogether. It's a feel bad for them, but it's always kind of nice for us to see that happen. Lastly, we have our 1 copy of Lochmere Serpent. You're familiar from it from the main board. 4 of anything, blue-black. 7/7 Serpent that can flash, become unblockable, draw you a card, and return from the graveyard while also exiling cards out of your opponent's graveyard. So again, this comes in against usually the cycling deck, the decks that lean on Uro a lot, or even decks where we just need a large finisher. Maybe they deal with a lot of our board throughout the game, and we want to get a Lochmere Serpent down towards the end to finish them off, because maybe they can't answer it or remove it easily. So those are the type of games that Lochmere would come in that we would want that second copy. It's a great, again, sideboard card. There are games where we want to see it, but there's a lot of games where we don't too, and that's why this copy is relegated to the sideboard.
Alright, so let's get into some gameplay against Diabre. Either way, we're going first on the play. Pretty much always want to be on the play if we can. Not that we get to choose, but... So let's see, Temple of Enlightenment. So it could be blue-white flyers, it could be ramp, it could be a lot of things. The temple doesn't tell us too much here, but we want to get the sailor down as early as possible. Would like to have a lofty denial in hand, but we're just going to go for the fast damage card draw plan. And there it is. So we'll have it for the turn 3 to Faerie, which is why we play it. Doing some creature ramp, it looks like. So no harm in trying to draw an untapped land here, which we don't. I don't want to give up a Brazen Bower either. And Uro, so we'll just counter it. Try to prevent life gain, get him on a fast clock. We want to take him out as quickly as possible. And wow, attacking with the Paradise Druid, ballsy. So again, we want to set him behind as much as possible. Hope for a land here, and we do get an untapped land. So we want to move quickly. Looking like we're playing against Bant. There's another Uro. We want to get in as much damage as quickly as possible. So an untapped forest. And the Paradise Druid, okay. So he's shown that he's aggressive with his Druid. Not looking to trade right now. Ooh, nice counter spell. So he has 6 mana, could be Nissa. Not too worried about Incubation Druid. And will he try to get in again? Nope, does not try this time. So let's try to Slitherwisp here. Get some pings going, really put a fast clock on him. We got a lot of cheap spells. And our opponent has something. Discontinuity. Okay, he's going to end the turn. So let's just get a threat on the board. Discontinuity, wow. Okay. And let's try to get in for 3 damage here. Yeah, let's make it 4. And both are pretty good draws, so we'll just keep it as is. Lofty Denial's a good draw. I feel pretty confident now. We'll get in, we'll draw the Sea-Dasher. We'll play our land untapped. So hopefully we can counter something with the Denial. Still have mana maybe to get another Sea-Dasher down. Our opponent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at Ugin mana. Yep, there it is. And perfect. So I don't think we can beat him this turn. We could probably get in for, let's see here, 3, 4, 8. It'll be close. Nope, scoops up. Alright, good showing against Bant Ramp. On to the next one. Alright, on to game 2 here. Found an opponent in Naxxus. Good luck, opponent. And really great showing in that first game against Bant Ramp. That's really what I tested the most against was Ramp, Reclamation, Sacrifice. I tried to put together the best version of Dimir Flash for those current top tier decks. And it can get underneath of them and really dismantle them before they can get to their Ugins, and we're prepared for them when they get them. So, could be playing another Bant deck here. So let's see if we can get another win. Lucky Clover. So this is Adventures. I don't think I played against Adventures for a few days here. So we'll see how we do in this matchup. Adventures tends to be more aggressive. They'll get down their innkeepers. They'll have a little bit more in the way of, wow, making 2 1/1s here. A little bit more in the way of creatures. And probably single target removal. He's showing Simic right now, but I think he'll have a red source coming pretty soon. Let's see. I play another black. I want to be able to play the Blacklance Paragon. I want to be able to gain life early. Be nice if we could get a Slitherwisp. And there's the Love-Struck Beast. Don't think our opponent's going to swing with the 1/1s. Oh, but he makes 2 more. So he is just flooded in 1/1s right now. Okay, let's go ahead and do some card draw. I would have liked to have played the Black Lances, but let's see. We'll put the mana down, and I don't think either one of those is what I want right this second. But we'll get another shot at drawing, and the Threnody Singer is always good. Good for blowouts again. We'll try to draw some more. Nothing but lands. Lofty Denial. So we found a counter spell. We don't have a blue now. Let's see what our opponent does anyway. And move into combat. He will... Wow, attacks with everything. Okay. So we'll Blacklance here. And we'll get rid of the Love-Struck Beast and a token. And we'll stay at 20 life with the lifelink. Again, Blacklance is our form of removal in this deck. I'm really removal light, and I'm more focused on just executing our game plan well than interrupting our opponent's plan with your normal removal. But I wouldn't blame you for playing maybe Grasp of Darkness or a Love-Struck Beast for the opponent, or maybe the Heartless Act, although Heartless Act has quite a bit of downside to it in my opinion. I'd rather maybe play an Eliminate or some combination of Eliminate and the other. We're going to get some more card draw going. I'd like to draw another blue source if I could. This also will get us a growing threat. There we go. More blue mana is always nice. So now we could possibly Threnody Singer and Lofty Denial. The opponent has quite a bit of mana right now. And once again, attacks with everything. So, didn't learn his lesson, so we'll continue to punish him. Again, here we'll just block 2 and go up to 21. Might play his Beanstalk Giant now. Plays an Uro. Uro's in every deck. It's just that good of a card. It's an Adventures, Ramp, literally everything. There's no reason not to. That was my argument before. We're going to keep him from getting 2 cards out of his sideboard here. He can have 1, but I think 2, he'd probably get a board wipe, and what else would he get? Maybe a negate? So we'll probably get the... Well, he's not on red, though. This must be Simic Adventures. So what would he get? If I was in Simic... Mass Manipulation. Okay. Well, let's see. He might get all our stuff here. Lofty Denial, that's good. So he needs, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now he can steal 1 thing. So I wonder if he's... Oh, Edgewall and Keeper. Okay. And then is he going to steal... Oh, Beanstalk Giant and draws. Okay. Alright, so draw for our opponent. I think we're just gonna bounce the Clover here. Or maybe the Clover. Just to be a little annoying. And that way we can add another threat to the board and get through some more damage. Another Threnody Singer. So we're pretty well lined up for a few turns here. See what we draw. Another land. We'll just put that in tapped. So he'll attack with the Beanstalk. We'll blow that out. He'll try to steal. What can he steal now? Well, he'll play the Lucky Clover. He could steal 1 thing. He might try to get the Sea-Dasher off the board. No, he Beanstalks again. Okay. Really ramping out here. He must... Maybe he's looking... He doesn't want to steal until he can take everything of ours. Well, we'll go ahead and play Threnody Singer. Turn his 10-10 into... It's going to be a 1-10, I think? Yep, a 1-10. I love Threnody Singer. It's so underappreciated. But my board's not even that impressive, and it can reduce his creature by 9 power. I mean, great for survivability. We're gonna try to draw here into some form of gas. Slitherwisp is good. Nightbonder's okay too. But we got one. I don't think we're in danger of losing it. So we'll wait for the opponent to pass here. Okay. Let's go ahead and get in for 9. Putting quite the clock on our opponent here. So he's going to have to do something. He's probably going to mass manipulate this turn. Another land, so we'll play that out. Might be able to end the game here. See, we play Threnody Singer. That's 1 damage. If it just depends what we would draw into. We could do a scry. Opponent has something. We'll just pass the turn. See what he wants to do. We'll try to blow him out completely. Get rid of the okay. Let's go for the win here. I'll draw land. So what's he gonna bounce now? He's bouncing Slitherwisp. Oh. Oh, well, we win. Okay. So he just gave us the gas that I was hoping to draw into. And that should be game. Unless he has... Nope, that's it. Alright. Well, good showing against adventures. Let's move to the next one. Alright, so we're moving into game 3 here. There, we got one. We got one against ... Interesting. So good luck, opponent. Going first again, getting pretty lucky. This hand, we have some counters that we can't play with the mana in hand, but we do got a Slitherwisp. We'll see what we're playing against. The meta right now is pretty well one deck. A lot of one deck, I should say. There's people that are playing other things. So he's showing Simic right now. We'll get down the Faerie Vandal, possibly. Nope, he's Bant. Okay, so this should be Bant Ramp. And we'll probably be seeing a Teferi here. And we don't have the Lofty Denial. Yep, there's Teferi, so... See, he's gonna probably bounce the Slitherwisp, and then we'll kill him with the Vandal. If he doesn't, then we could either bounce him if we draw... Well, no, we draw another land. So we're just gonna kill Teferi here. Get the card draw. And we'll just go ahead and swing it to Teferi. It's going to leave us wide open on this next turn. So we could get blown out with a board wipe. An extinction event or... Well, no, he's not in black. Shatter the Sky does it. Ugh. We need some more blue mana. We're flooding out in black. We're going to get rid of one of these counters because we can't play him anyway. Nope, that don't do it. There we go. Okay. So now we can counter something. We're not in a great position here. Uro, yeah, that's fine. We're going to have to play the long game here. Not going to get under it like we did the first time we played him today. And the Fable Passage. So he'll still be on 3 mana. Does he have another Teferi? God, I hope not. That could be game right there. Teferi's shuts us down that bad. Oh, he passes, okay. We'll get a threat down. We got to get some kind of clock going. Growth Spiral's fine. God, so many. He leaves up 2 blue. We're gonna have to draw some more cards too to get back in it. Okay. Spectral Sailor. That's a card draw again. Neutralize. Seen that a lot more in the Bant Ramp decks. Another Growth Spiral. I seem to have a handful of nothing here. Yeah, he just replays it, but wanted to get the value out of Brazen and prevent him from making his token as well. So Nightbonder is okay here. Oh, Vandal. Shit, Vandal won't be too bad. Let's see, is he at? He's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Ugin could be coming next turn. And okay, so he escapes Uro. We're not gonna let that happen. Again, we don't want him to get the tokens. And then we can still Nightbonder. Lofty Denial could be good if he has Ugin. That could be a way out. We'll start pumping our Faerie Vandal. I doubt he'll want to block with the, well, he does. Well, maybe he's trying to fill the graveyard for, another Uro escape. Okay. Well, we're doing it somehow. The weenie strategy is getting us there, slowly but surely. Looking at our board. And what you got, opponent? Nope, not gonna let that happen. No siree. We're gonna keep our up, and that's it. He scoops. Alrighty, so let's try to get one more in. Alrighty, so one last game. Let's see how we fare against Stack Cats. Good luck, opponent. Going on the play again, getting lucky with being on the play. Normally almost always go second. So our opponent keeps. Faerie Vandal. Don't necessarily want to bottom that. But we do need to find some more blue. Opt for the opponent, so probably some sort of spells deck, or maybe I'm thinking it'll probably be Izzet, maybe Phoenix. Yep, Izzet, okay. Let's see if he is playing a lot of cantrips here. Crash through. Oh, so this is probably the aggro one that plays I'm not too familiar with it, but it plays the Sprite and some other things, I believe. Prowess trigger guy. So we get in for one here. We do need more blue. We desperately need blue. We got Slitherwisp mana, so that's always good. And our opponent might play down his 3 opt. That's his 3rd opt. Wow. So he had a whole gang of ops to start with here. Let's see, 2 reds, so yeah, Thrill a possibility, discarding a Thrill. Okay. Just need to play down threats and get him on a clock then. So it can do 5 damage this turn. Ooh, Slitherwisp. That's a good draw. We did miss a land drop. Terramander. Okay, we're okay with that. And a whole lot of nothing right now. As our opponent... Oh, he could be getting ready to adapt the Terramander. He takes a scry. I think we're gonna try for the Slitherwisp here. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's what the deck's built around. It might get removed, but we're not drawing mana. We need to draw on some more cards. I would like to keep up a lofty denial while we play it, but we just need to get threats down. And maybe we can draw into a land with the help of the Slitherwisp. So, opponent's roping us out a little bit. Oh, okay. Well, we had to go for it. Now we draw some land. So we'll get an island, definitely. And get in for another 5. So maybe we can get the beatdown win here. Nothing fancy, just good old-fashioned beat you down with some small creatures. Dragonfire. I want to keep him on a short clock. I don't think he's going to play anything too crazy. And he adapts from 1. Wow. So will he... he'll probably leave him back as a blocker, I'd have to imagine. He's holding more removal, I think. Wow, another Fable Passage. That's both of them. Okay. He goes for Blacklands. So we'll have him on a 2-turn clock here. And... oh... huh. Okay. He must have been expecting a combat trick or something. I'm not sure. Really wants to keep that Terramander. That was a misclick. I wanted to get more blue. Oh well. Now he gets in for 5. This is the first real damage they've dealt all game. So they got us on a 3-turn clock. Let's go ahead and draw since we're not spending mana. Okay, more land. We don't really need the land right now. Okay. So if we get through here, which he has something. Petty theft. Okay. And... oh wow, petty theft. Okay. So we'll get in for 1. But he's still potentially on a 2-turn clock here. There's one unknown card in hand. And the reason why I'm playing everything back out now is because Again, if he gives double strike to Pteramander or something, there's Sprite Dragon. Okay, so he has nothing but threats. Wow, he used up all his cantrips already, okay. And he can block everything. He'd probably only take one here. Another Threnody Singer. We could blow him out pretty good, so let's do that. What we'll do, he'll think that he's doing some trading here, and we'll just get him in a position where he's gonna lose his board state. No reason not to draw as well. Okay, so we'll play Threnody Singer. Do the Bower first. And then we'll do Threnody Singer again and do the Pteramander. Not quite the blowout he was hoping for. But now we have nothing left in hand either. But we do outclass him, so he needs a creature. He needs to play out both creatures, the Brazen Bower. And he needs... I don't think even another creature would do it here. Another land, but that don't matter. We'll draw to pump the Vandal some more. Okay. Oh, what do you got? Okay, block. Block. Block, and you're still dead, so see what... Nope, no tricks. Alright. Beat down, made it through. So that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the games, and I'll see you in the next one.